In the last video, we took a look at getting audio into Edison, and in this video, we're going to look at how to use markers, regions, and loops. Markers and regions have various uses in Edison. Markers are often used to simply mark a point of interest in the audio file, typically a start and end point of a segment that you would like to use in your project. Markers are also used as beat markers, which allow you to slice, speed up, and slow down your project without having to time shift your audio. There are several loop files out there that come with these embedded markers, such as those available from ImageLine. For example, here I have opened a drum loop. Notice how there are markers in place for each beat or transient of the loop. Now, if I am to drag this file to a channel in FL Studio, you can see as I change the tempo, the file continues to play in perfect sync without any time shifting being applied. You may have noticed that FL Studio is asking if we want to apply time stretching each time I change the tempo, but I can click No, as with the markers, the loop stays in sync. You can also disable this confirmation by accessing General Settings, Read Sample Tempo Information. But there may be times when you'll have a recording that does not have markers at each and every beat, thus you'll have to add them yourself. To demonstrate, I'll record the master output of FL Studio by adding Edison to the master channel, then record using the on play mode that we looked at in the last video. Now, as I did record using the on play mode while FL Studio was set to pattern, markers will be automatically created at each pattern loop point. So first, let's show how we can use these markers to select a portion of the audio. By double-clicking on a marker handle, you will automatically select the portion of the audio between the two markers. So now I can use the basic editing tool, Trim, to remove all portions of the recording outside the selection. As FL Studio plays markers at the first beat of each loop, I know that this audio file will be a perfect 1 bar length, as that was the length of my pattern. Now, if I am to move this recording into a FL Studio channel, it would match the tempo as the project is set to the same tempo as when I recorded the loop. But if I am to adjust the tempo, and again, not apply time stretching, you can hear that the loop is now out of sync with the project. So now let's move back into Edison, so we can correct this with additional markers. In order for this to work, we need to place the markers at each transient in the loop. To add a marker, select Add Marker from the Markers and Regions menu, or simply hit M on your keyboard. A small text box will appear where you can type in the name of your marker. You can name it to something specific like kick or snare, or perhaps something generic such as Marker 1 and Marker 2, whatever works best for you. Once the marker is created, you can click and drag it to an appropriate location, which, as I just mentioned, would be on a transient. Now repeat this process for each transient. Now, with all the markers in place, we can move this audio clip into a channel in FL Studio, and if we are to change the tempo and not apply time stretching, our clip will remain in sync. If at any point you wish to rename the marker, you can do so by simply right-clicking on the marker and selecting Rename. Type in the new name and hit Enter. If you wish to remove a marker, you can do so by right-clicking on the marker and choosing Delete. Now, I'm sure you're thinking that adding an individual marker to each transient would be a long, tedious task, especially if you are working on longer samples or loops. An easier way to add markers is to let Edison analyze the file and place markers where it thinks they should go. So, from the Regions and Markers icon menu, you will find the Auto Slice option. There are a few different detection algorithms, each with their own detection sensitivity to the audio. The first three options, dull, medium, and sharp, We'll analyze the audio and determine where a marker should go based on its findings. You may have to run a trial on each option to find the one that best detects your transients of your audio clip. Some other auto-slicing options are slicing the grid, which will use the grid as a basis of where the marker should go. You have small grid slicing, medium grid slicing, and large grid slicing. The auto-slicing features are, if nothing less, a great starting point for adding markers in which you can then move and edit to get a much finer match. Set First Downbeat adds a downbeat marker at the start of the selected region. The marker is used to align audio clips to the playlist grid. The marker can be then dragged into a new position by the square handle at the top of the marker. Right Control, Right Shift, and click on the location in the sample where the first downbeat marker is to be set. Hold and drag horizontally to fine-tune the position if needed. Then release the mouse button and click again with the Right Control, Right Shift keys still held, and adjust the grid spacing to align the grid to the beat. So in this video, we looked at working with markers and using them to maintain sync with various tempos. We'll also look at how to use Edison to auto-detect markers for you. In the next video, we're going to take a look at working with regions and loop points.